Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. One of the most common questions that I get personally about our family is how I manage to homeschool so many kids. This year, 8 of my 11 children are still school-aged, so today I thought that I would answer that question with just an update of this year's homeschool routine for 8 kids. A few months ago, I shared a video about what we were planning on starting this homeschool year with, and I went into some details about our Explorers, Navigation Stars, and Sailing Unit study, and I mentioned in it some of the ways that I was planning on having that happen, logistically speaking. And you know, even though we started school in July, we are still in the Explorers, Navigation, Stars, and Sailing Unit study at this point. Because between my daughter's 2 hospitalizations, my pneumonia, and our unexpected move, we had pretty many setbacks in getting it done. So we're still plugging through that, and we're actually really enjoying it. So when I talk about our routine, it is still going to include that unit study. Now, I'm not going to use any visuals today of books or anything like that because I went pretty thoroughly over that in my other video. And if you want to see that, I will just leave a link in the description box for that. Today, I just wanted to explain to you how we set about with our homeschool day, because I think that's what a lot of people are really interested in. They want to know how it is that I manage with 8 kids. And you know, at one point I did have 10 kids being homeschooled all at once. So 8 kids in our house is actually a little bit of it's a little bit more relaxing for us because it's not as many as I used to do. So last year, and actually several years before that also, I used to break my kids into 3 separate groups. I used to have a group of littles, which were usually like, you know, kindergarten age up to like 2nd or 3rd grade, depending on ability. And then the middles group, which would be 3rd or 4th grade up through 8th. And then the teens, which were the high schoolers. Well, this year, as it turned out, I only had 1 little left. Yes, I only have 1 little left. I'm getting so old. Anyway, so I only had my 6-year-old left who would have actually been in the littles group, because the one who was in the littles with her last year, Summer, she's actually 8 and in 3rd grade now. And I gave her the choice of if she wanted to do littles again or move up to middles, just because she was ready. And I just wanted to give her the option, and she chose to do middles. Well, Kenzie, my 6-year-old, did not want to be by herself in littles, and who can blame her? She was used to kind of having a partner in crime all the time in her school. So I just started breaking my kids up this year into just 2 groups. I have the first group, which is everyone from 1st grade, Kenzie's in 1st grade, up through 8th, and then I have my teens. So that first group, I actually do a bulk of their homeschooling together. So what our day typically looks like is we don't start our homeschool routine until 10 o'clock in the morning. But it is very, very common for my kids to actually start doing the work that they know they can do on their own before we even start our homeschool day. So a lot of times you'll see my kids at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they will be working on their spelling by themselves, or they will be working on their silent reading by them, well, obviously by themselves, silent reading. I also do put just like between 5 and 10 math drills on the whiteboard each day, just, you know, to kind of keep the kids, their memories refreshed when it comes to, you know, basic, you know, like multiplication and division facts, and for the younger kids, addition and subtraction facts. So they will very often work on those drills on their own. And grammar. Some of my kids are really confident about grammar and are okay with just doing that in the morning before we start school as well. When 10 o'clock rolls around, that is when I actually start our homeschool day. And what our homeschool day actually starts with is a devotion. It's devotion time. And so I have that first group from 1st through 8th grade. So this year specifically, I have in that group 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So I have 6 kids in that first group, and then I have 2 high schoolers. So when we do devotions, my 10th grader, she will actually do devotions with us. Sometimes my 12th grader will. She's not always awake at that time, and I'm okay because she does her work mainly by herself, which I'll get into later. But if she does not do devotions with us, then I will do them with her later on in the day. So we start out with devotions, the first group plus the 10th grader. And after devotions, we will each sit with the Bible and we will read through maybe a chapter in the gospel together. Sometimes we'll go through Genesis, and we each read one verse out of the Bible. And, very often we'll have a discussion about what we read. After that is done, my 10th grader will then go off and she will just start working on her own thing, doing her own thing. And I have to say that with my 2 high schoolers, I do not give them a specific time to do anything other than when I help them with their math. Everything else they can do whenever they want to throughout the day, as long as they get it done. If something happens that they get sidetracked and they don't get it done, then yes, the next day I will give them a specific time that I want everything done by. And it has happened. My kids aren't perfect. No kids are perfect. So anyway, so after my 10th grader leaves and I have my littles and middles group together, we will do our read aloud, which we just finished. Carry On, Mr. Bowditch. I'm actually thinking of maybe starting Little Women with them next. I'm not really too sure about that. But we will do a read aloud together, and very often we will have narration. And since I have so many kids in that group, I will have the kids, and I used to just stop every couple pages and I would ask one of the kids to just tell me pretty much everything that they remember that I had read. And I would go through that throughout the entire chapter until each child had a turn. But the chapters in Carry On, Mr. Bowditch aren't very long, and since I have 6 kids in that group, what I have been doing is I will read the entire chapter, and then at the end, each child has to tell me one thing that they remember. So that's been working out pretty well, and that's the way that we've been doing it. Then after the read aloud is finished, we will work on 2 unit study activities together. And we are using CONUS unit studies. Again, all of the supplies that I use, all of the resources are in the video that I'm going to link in the description box. So you can check that out if you want to see it. But we will do 2 activities for our unit study. And that can be anything like the other day, since we actually had started learning about Marco Polo. So we might read a little bit about a new explorer, for example, Marco Polo. And then my kids, they made a camel puppet. Now, my older kids, I gave them the choice. I told them, you don't have to make the camel puppet if you don't want to. But my kids are really artsy. So even my 8th grader, she was like, heck yeah, I'm going to make the camel puppet. So they all made a camel puppet, and then they each wrote a story about Marco Polo's travels, but through the eyes of the camel, like what the camel saw as he was with Marco Polo during that time. Now, my first grader at that point, it was a little bit difficult for her, but that's the good thing about unit studies is that you can, kind of adjust them to fit multi-level. So really with my daughter, with my first grader, I just had her draw a picture and she just wrote a couple of sentences about that. So after they are done with the 2 unit study activities, whatever they may be for that day, that is typically when I will start spending one-on-one time with them, which is very often math. Now, my 1st and 3rd graders are still using Abeka arithmetic this year, but all of the rest of them are doing CTC math. So really when it comes to CTC math, my kids just like to have me sitting next to them as they're doing the lesson, just because it kind of gives them the confidence that they need to get it done. And that way they know that if they have a question about their math, they don't have to fight for my attention. I'm already sitting there with them as they do that math. And also at this point, while I'm doing one-on-one time with one of the kids at a time, the other kids will just work on anything else that they might not have gotten done, their individual work, which typically, as I mentioned earlier, will include spelling, math drills, silent reading, grammar, or in the case of my younger kids, phonics, and then again, just math. So they will work on the things that they can work on their own if they didn't already get them done before school started. And chances are they usually did. So that's really how our school day gets done so early, because my kids do take the initiative to get things rolling before, a lot of times before I'm even up. So I have a whiteboard that I write down what they have to do, and then I write the drills on it, and I will try to write it down the night before. That way when they get up in the morning, they will see what they have to do and they can start working on what they need to. And that really is such a great time saver. There are times lately that we are getting done like between 11:30 and 12 o'clock sometimes, just because my kids have already gotten, most of their individual learning done before school even started. So that is really my first group. That is their homeschool routine. And sometimes it might change, but that is the main, that's like the basic frame of what I try to do for our homeschool, because it's so important to have a regular routine so that your kids know what to expect next. Even if the activities might change a little bit, at least they have an idea. My kids know that it's our routine is basically 3 sections: Bible and read aloud, then it's unit study time, and then it is that one-on-one time, or what I sometimes call table time. Sometimes I call it 3 R's, but that's what that looks like. Now, as for my 2 high schoolers, they are very, very independent when it comes to doing their work. And so the only thing that I really help them with is math, algebra, to be precise. So, that is the only thing that I will give them a specific time that they have to do it by. Usually I will tell Kaylin, my 10th grader, that she has to get started by 6 in the evening. And then Ariana, my 12th grader, I will tell her she has to get started by 6:30, as long as Kaylin is done by 6:30. Ariana has to get started by 6:30, just because I don't want to be doing math with them at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. That's just, it's not going to happen. So what Kaylin usually does, and while their routines are pretty similar, they're not exactly the same. What Kaylin is working on independently this year is she is actually doing, she's going back and forth between, she has a Minecraft STEM book and a Minecraft engineering book. Kaylin is really into engineering. She's really into how things work, putting things together, and she's really enjoying that. So she's doing that. She is also doing an art course through Raising Da Vinci. And that is just a couple of days a week. She usually alternates, like Minecraft STEM art, Minecraft STEM art. And she is also notebooking. Right now, she has been learning about marine life, oceanography in her notebooking. So that's what she's been doing. And for her silent reading, she's reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea right now. She also, again, I mentioned that she does math. She does Spanish. She uses Duolingo for that. And I mentioned that she does Bible with us. And I'm just trying to, Kaylin actually uses, while all of my other kids for grammar use Daily Grams, Kaylin has actually started using Life of Fred Language Arts. The reason that she actually started using it was because she and my 12th grader, they were always kind of having to share the Daily Grams book, because it's for junior and senior high. It's not specific grade levels. It's just junior high, senior high. And so she got tired of having to share it with her sister and always having to go look for it because she didn't know where her sister put it. So we already had Life of Fred Language Arts. And I said to her, Kaylin, we have Life of Fred Language Arts. Did you want to try that? And so she started doing that. She's on the Australia book now, and she really likes Life of Fred Language Arts. So that's what she has been doing for that. And again, she does all of that pretty independently. Except for math. And she loves to be outside. She's always out. She's just like my older son was, that just graduated last year. She is, she's always going to the creek. She is always fishing. Today she brought home like an entire container full of crayfish, and I told her to take them back because I didn't want them in the yard. But she's really an outdoor person. She's really active. So she's bike riding all the time. She goes to the library constantly. So she really, really keeps herself busy. And I love that about her. Now, my 12th grader, she's very similar, but she's not quite as active. She's she's not as much of an outdoor person as Kaylin, my 10th grader, but she does love reading. So she's more of the reader. She's more of the type that likes to just kind of sit and ponder things. She likes to write. So what she has been doing is, other than me helping her with her CTC math, she does the daily grams for her grammar. She is doing Italian with Duolingo. She is notebooking. She just changed topics. She was learning about the Salem witch trials, and she had been learning about World War II. She just changed topics again. I honestly don't remember what it is. I'm terrible. But yeah, she just started that like before the week ended. So it's okay, because yeah, I don't even know if she got started on it yet, but she does notebooking, and that usually will cover a variety of things, whether history, science. She kind of blends it all in together into her notebooking. What else is she doing? You know, isn't that terrible? I can't even think of what she is doing right now. Oh, she is also reading. She's reading Romeo and Juliet, obviously by Shakespeare. She loves to read poetry. Emily Dickinson. She has read Edgar Allan Poe already, so she's working through that. And for silent reading, I believe that right now she's reading a historical fiction about the Salem witch trials. And I hope that I got that. But it's not really about what specifically they're learning about in this video. I just wanted to let you know how they do it. So the bulk of what I have to do, the parent-led part, is with that first group of kids from 1st through 8th grade. High school is just independent learning except for math, and that's where mom steps in. And if they ever have any question about anything else, I'm happy to help them with that. But that is really what our homeschool routine looks like. I hope that I explained it in a simple enough way that you have an idea of what our days look like. But it's not really different from any other year, other than the fact that instead of 3 groups, we only have 2 groups now, which is sad. I don't like change. But anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram, because YouTube disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page and see what rewards I have for my patrons there, I will leave that link in the description box. And today I want to give a shout out to another of my Patreon patrons, Carla. I am so happy to have your support. I am so happy just to know you, and I'm so glad that I was able to write the unicorn unit study for your daughter. I hope that she's enjoying it. The unicorn unit study was for all of my Patreon patrons, but it was her daughter who specifically asked for it. And anyway, I hope you all have a great day.